And even the most simple pencil sketches, don't forget to sign them, because sketches are just as important as paintings, really. Well, my computer has unfortunately failed. Don't know whether it's the screen or the computer. So I'm working on an image from the laptop. It was a photograph that I took a while back, really, and the sun was just coming through the trees. What I want to do is to take or make a little pencil sketch so I can get the tone values right. Something that I quite often do, and I'll be explaining the materials and roughly how I'm doing everything. Well, these are the materials. Basically, I have a light wash, DeWint sketching pencil, and these are graphite, so they're water soluble, so which should be interesting at the end. Then I have a medium wash and then a dark wash. So basically in lead wise, that's HB, 4B and an 8B. And then at the end I should be using this wet brush. It's loaded with water just to soften edges and to create more or less a watercolour like effect, really. So first thing we need to do is I'm going to normally work from light to dark, so I'm using my light wash, and just to get an idea of where these trees are, I think the trees would be best situated here somewhere. This is only a rough sketch just to get an idea of where we're going to position them, really, and then we can do tone values. Now there's two there, one much smaller than or narrow than the other one. They go up into the canopy. Got lots going on, but there is a bit of area at the base of the wood before we go into the distance, and there's a little bit of I will put this in. See, the good thing about when you draw a sketch like this, you can decide what you're going to put in and what you ain't, or what you're not going to put in. So I'm going to put that in. There is a trunk that runs up there, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in some rather bold leafing, because that's what I can see. So I'm just indicating that. We'll put more of that in. Not certain whether it's an ivy leaf or whatever, but we'll just put a bit round there. We've got lots of branches coming in. Main thing is the light effect that this will give. That's the key to the whole thing. And all being well, yes, we've got quite a bit of light coming across there. Good. Okay, now we start with the shading. Now I'm going to use the light wash first, because that will be far better for shading the distance. And when you shade, I'm shading across the trunks. Hold the pencil on the side and just shade like that, and gradually you get a flat on the pencil, and that creates a wider area that you're using on the lead, and it goes up like that. It's a bit lighter at the top because we've got a backlight with this. So this is the way I would produce a sketch on site if necessary, which is quite often necessary. Very little at the top there. That's it. Comes down to there. We do have some darker stuff there. It's like a small bush or a shrub, but it's by no means dark as we will go. There we are. And we do have a little bit of dark area there. These are bushes in the distance, shrubs in the distance that really, you know, are useful, but not particularly concerned about them at the moment, where they go and what they do. Perfect. Now I'm going to go to my medium wash. They call them a wash because they do obviously spread with a damp brush. Now that looks quite dark, but this one has got to be dark. The only thing you have to remember, and it's always handy to have, particularly if you work in the studio, a meal stick with you, because that helps to keep your hand away from the lead, because that will pick up on your hands. And yeah, it goes up there into the canopy of the wood like that, and gradually gets lost a bit. But then there is the odd branch that comes away like that. There's a somewhat smaller branch there and there. See how these leads are very dense, and I'm getting a jagged feel because that's the way I can see them, really. You know, always draw what you see. Then this one here, that's also dark. In painting terms, it probably won't be as dark with this one as I have the other one, the larger one. Like that. Yes, we do have a nice branch that comes up and goes down there. This one sweeps through. Some little branches off of that. One or two weaker branches off of that. Perhaps there. Anything in the lower area? Not really. Not to any great extent. Just thickening that. It's all about tones on this one. Right, now we have some lovely branch work that's coming in on that right hand side. I'm going to put that in because I like the feeling of that. Old branches coming in like that, and we've got this lovely sort of shrub affair that's here. It has got some form of leafing on, so we will shade that in shortly. They've all got leafing on of some sort. And then we've got sort of a little bit of branch work that comes up here that supports leafing, and these are large leaf areas. So I'm going to sort of put them in like that, trying to pick up a leaf sort of shape. Just quite simple leaf shape. There you go. Loads of them really, but we're not going to put them all in. Some of them are flat. Others you can see straight towards you. And lovely one comes down there. Another one, I'm just putting the extremes in at the moment. Not all the same size. That's another thing you have to watch when you're producing these sort of drawings. Yeah, I'm pretty much happy with that, because they're, you see, they're so big because they're close to us. Another one there. Don't space them equally. They're at all different spacings, but just get an idea of the tone values that we'll be looking at on those extremes. Now I can create some branches that are overhanging onto these leaf areas. Here we are. And now I think I'm in the point of using the dark wash. and this should potentially be a little darker than that, but sometimes it doesn't always work that way. And we've got lovely dark areas there, dark and light there, some really strong dark areas amongst the light, because this is the tone that I'm going to have to put in when I come to paint. A little bit open in that top corner, but I'm going to give it a bit of shading. See the way I'm getting that impression? And as I say, it is purely an impression. Branches and leafing, loads of leafing really, put a few more in, but I know roughly what's there. There are some there, and then down in the lower area there, and there is a little branch coming up there, so I may as well pop that in with some smaller branch leafing like that. Then, as I promised, this side has foliage, so that's going to be overall quite dark, and that's going to hang out there, and that's going to be, yes, it's quite dark up there. The harder you push, the darker the covering. Leave gaps, but also, you know, you need a bit of cover. See? You know, just as if you're on site really. You know, this is what I'm doing. And then we will have the shadow area from the trees. Now, the sun's coming more or less towards us, and it's sweeping away like that. There you go. And the other one then sweeps away like that. It's quite a flat surface, so you can see that that it's not undulating. And of course, in the background here, you've got other dappled light from trees out of picture. See the way I'm trying to create those coming in? And that actually is quite a large area of dappled light there. And of course this would create a light area, a dark area on the base of that. I think that does it. Now I'm going to use a damp brush. Now, as you can see, I've done the top. I'll show you the rest here. You just soften it and spread it, creating these lovely sort of soft edges. Something that you can't really do with, to me anyway, with a pencil. Not as easy. And then of course we've got the distant area there. I have to just, you can harden up later. Make that just a little bit wider. Gives it a bit more strength. It just blends with the disc. See the way you get a blending. Love it really, the way this water soluble graphite works. And then you have all sorts of things going on here. You have the shadows there that come from the base, and then they open up. Bit of shadow there. There you go. This is exactly what you need to do to give yourself a tonal sketch of the scene in hand. And two little gaps there. Once you wet it, then you create a it's sort of like seals it really, so it doesn't rub off. Superb. Now I'm just softening those off. Lovely. Very good. Perfect. Now I'm going to darken parts of that trunk. There. Particularly in the lower area. Widen it just a touch there. You can do this once it's dry. It hasn't quite dried properly, but as a demonstration I think it probably works okay. Here we go. That's better. And that's sort of strengthened that up. There are some areas that are just a little bit darker there. A bit darker there. Darker there. Here we are. So once it dries, you can over draw it again. If it's still damp, then you have a tendency to tear the paper. But basically, there you go. Now I'm going to soften it again. Picking up that graphite that I've just laid on. Spread that through. Perfect. And that is basically all you need to do for a simple sketch. Nothing much to that really. Seems to work quite well. Yeah, a little bit more strengthening at the top there. But overall, we'll allow that to dry, and as always, once it dries, you have a totally more tonal, the tones sort of level out. And even the most simple pencil sketches, don't forget to sign them, because sketches are just as important as paintings really. Well, here's my setup. Pretty normal setup really. Got the paper on the board, and all I've done, there's the sketch that I did, and I'm going to work from that plus the screen of a computer, and that's all the drawing I need really. Well, the first thing you need to do when you look at a subject like this is get all the warm colours down really, just damping lightly. I'm using a 1-inch flat for this, which is not my normal style, but damping well at the top, and I should work my way down. So there'll be a bead of water hanging at the base there, all along the bottom there. I'm starting off with cobalt blue, a little bit of cobalt blue in the top, just that right hand corner, a little bit that side as well. Then I'm very quickly adding red into there with a touch of this lovely yellow. Maybe a bit greeny because it's a bit dirty at the moment, but there you go. But what I'm looking to do is create colour in the background. A mix of these lovely sort of warm tones. Plenty of reds going on there. Not that much red, but there you go. Let's just go with it. A bit more yellow into that and you get a nice orange. A bit more yellow into that. There we are. Because this is what I want to do. I want to create that warm glow in the background. And you'd be surprised, it looks fairly dark, but to be quite honest with you, nowhere near as dark when it dries. Times I say this, but that is pretty much the way things are with watercolour painting. There we are. So that's the first wash. A little bit of blue going in here to create sort of like a cool sort of depth to areas behind these trees. And that's just going up into the wooded area above. And what you do, you just sort of give a open effect, because it will be open, little areas of open colour. These are all the trees in the distance, and they're quite sort of soft area in the centre there. Bit more red there, bit more blue. Just holding that left hand side a touch. Same there. Oh, that's nice, like a cool grey. It's all the depth of the wood really, and I'm trying to get in of that light, so I need a bit more red in there. There we are, and a bit more yellow, more or less mixing it on the paper really. Sweep it out, don't want it too dark. It's gradually drying, so best to leave well alone at the top there. There you go. Now the lower part is very strong. I'm actually going to add a bit of light red to that as well, so I'm sweeping that through and I'm softening it, in other words, more water. There you go, a bit more of the light red, sweeping that across this foreground. Now I'm adding a bit of burnt umber and a bit of light red, almost neat paint, stretching it through, pulling it across the paper. A bit more burnt umber, there you go. Look at that. And then quickly clean the brush. Before that all dries, using the same brush, I'm going to use Winsor blue, or well, you could use phthalo blue, with cadmium yellow, and these are the overhanging branches. A bit more yellow, just to get that sort of, it is summer, but it's getting towards the end of the summer, leaving one or two gaps. A bit more yellow coming in there, nice fresh greens, just a little bit dry there, so just dot around, creating the sort of open effect to those branches. Bit more yellow, bit more blue, so we're getting some darker stuff going on in places, not too much of that dark stuff at this stage. And these are the soft areas, the areas a bit more of the yellow. There we are. And just in the distance there, you've got some of these nice little shrubby areas like that. What have we got behind here? Not a lot, but put a little bit in. A little bit overhanging there, a bit more dense of that area. You know, it's these first washes that, and first bits of texture, that really mean an awful lot. If you know, if you can get these right, then you're sort of getting there really. You know, don't overdo it. And that needs, now it's beginning to dry, pick up plenty of the yellow, plenty of the blue, open the brush up, so by tapping down onto the and then I'm then going to use sort of like a stippling sort of effect, just to try and get really dark colours. I'm actually going to put some red with that, because I want some really dark shots. And as you can see, it's still slightly on the damp side. There you go. And what I'm going to do this side, oh yeah, we've got some big stuff this side, because it's sort of like coming over. Remember where we had these big chunky leafing, and that's the way I'm depicting them. Nothing at all too fancy. That's the good thing about watercolour. you know, you can really sort of get the clumps of leafing and the tones. And then here you have a little bit more what I'd class as a bit sort of lighter textured thing. So I've opened the brush up and I'm just stippling away, because that's where that bush will be, on that right hand side. There we are. Any more stippling areas? Not really. Maybe a little bit. The lower area there, just coming up from some undergrowth. Right, that's the end of that brush. Now I've cleaned that, and now I'm going to move to a number 10. And I'm picking up some real dark colour again. Use red and blue for this. That helps to give a different texture, and I'm just scratching across the paper like that. And then just opening up. Quite dense there, very little light coming through into that area. Very little light coming through in this area. Plenty of good strong colour. It's more tonal, lights and darks, than it is sort of lovely the way you can play with colours and the paint. There's also quite a spot of this dark colour. Red and blue again. Quite a bang of it here, really. There we are. Now we clean that brush off. And we get ourselves a brush that points, and then we go plenty of red with the blue, still the Windsor and the Cad red. I'm going to use the mill stick here because I want to get this, and of course we've got a backlight, so it is dark, but not ridiculously dark. Goes up through the canopy like that. That's the larger tree of the two. Can also be seen higher up, I think. Well, that's the way I'm depicting it anyway. And then, of course, we've got the smaller one of the two. Could be a little weaker in colour, in tone. Don't want to make this, on my sketch I made it quite large, and I don't really want it to be too large. That's better. It's a bit more like it. And we've got branches coming off of that. Nice substantial branch from that. Maybe that's probably as far as I'm going to go with that. Now, what I'm going to do now is to clean that brush, dry it off, and just lift away a bit of colour down that right hand side, just to give a feeling of rounded shape, a bit of light catching that side, and perhaps a little bit there too. Not too much, but just a little bit of light being caught. Now, I'm using the Prussian blue again. The reason I'm using Prussian blue a lot is because we're ending up with a really dark colour, which is what I'm looking for. And I'm going to use burnt umber with that, with a little bit of red, that will make it really, really dark, because I've got some branches that are coming in on this right hand side there, and yep, just checking from the little bits of branches just coming through there. Some of them are quite thick, but of course they can go behind like that, and then they just hang down like that. And it's just an impression again. Remember, you know, when you paint, you're painting an impression of what you see, and not necessarily exactly what you see. Here we are. Perfect. Quite happy with that. Good. Clean that brush. Now I'm going to use a rigger. For the very fine branches, it's going to be the same dark mix. Burnt umber, Windsor blue with a red. And these are some of the really sort of twiggy areas that come off of that and that head up into the canopy, and these ones that come down as well. That's it. And now I'm going to do this side. I'm going to come around here, produce these branches, plenty of them coming down. Want to incorporate several of them, because that's the way it is basically. That's it. All hanging down and coming in all over the place that there. As I say, don't put them all in, but always useful to put the main ones in like that. Nice thick branch there, thinner branches coming off. Keep adding water because it's quite warm in here. It's drying as I go. And then of course there's these leaf areas that are supported in the lower area. And then of course you've got this shrub here that comes up like that, and then you've got the branches that quite a substantial branch there, heads right up. There's another one coming up there, about 3 clumps of them there, with some little branches here and little branches there. Always a good thing to give that fennel a backlight really. And then there's some spiky bits there to support that. Then of course, before you look at your shadow, you do have some little bits of texture. Let's do that in the foreground here first. Got the shadow later, but let's just do this. Little bits of texture, you know, leafing undergrowth. 1, 2 little touches here and there. There we are. Now let's have a look at the shadow. The shadow colour, I'm going to use ultramarine for this. Not used ultramarine in this up till now, and I'm going to use the cadmium red. So it's ultramarine, cadmium red, not too dark to start with. And what I'm going to do, there is a little bit of subtleness, and that's not subtle, that is too strong. Fairly weak to start with. That's it, just weaken that down, there you go. Just where there's a little bit of shadow dappling in the distance. like that. Now a little bit stronger, because we've got the tree that creates a lovely light field, a dark field there. That one more or less lays across that. That's the way I'm depicting that. Then we can bring some shadow from that onto that, like that. And then as we come forward, we have sort of a depiction of light. In other words, on the base of that, yes. And you watch what I'll do in a second is just soften all that. Spread that through just a little darker here, a little bit darker there, and then just damp it. I think you've seen me do this before, but that just spreads in places, creates a more dappled light to the whole thing. Look at that. Look at the way you get a lovely film of dappled light. It's all about shadows. Most of my work is about shadows, really. And I'm going to allow that to completely dry. So there we are, 20 minutes, painting pretty much done. Well, yeah, there you have it, about, 20 minutes to create this. Did make a small pencil sketch before we started, but other than that, quite a simple little subject, really. Just shows you what you can do with watercolour in a very short space of time. Lovely little woodland scene, a couple of trees, a bit of backlight, and there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching.